Let's bring in our friends of Pivot. Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird are legendary athletes, Olympic champions, and have been dubbed by GQ the most beloved power couple in sports. I don't know how many of them there are, but anyway, they're also hosts of the new Vox Media podcast, A Touch More. Welcome to the family, Megan and Sue.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
How's it going? How's the podcasting going?
We are just learning on the fly. It's fun though. We're like figuring it out.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with that. The show was originally launched on Instagram during COVID. Explain what you are doing here with the podcast first.
Well, yeah, it started, I guess one edition of it, which was just we were in the pandemic, stuck in our apartment. What's something we could do together that would be fun? So we decided to go on IG Live like every Saturday at whatever time, 7 o'clock. We were drinking, we were having fun, we were talking about current events, all the things. And then fast forward a couple of years, somebody was like, hey, would you guys want to do live shows? So we're like, all right, let's try to do that. And then it kind of morphed into what it is now as a podcast, which is definitely more women's sports bent, where culture, politics, fashion, all the things meet women's sports. And we're just kind of figuring it out from there. Yeah, shooting from the hip on a lot. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. Did you feel like everyone has a podcast? You have to have
kind of. Honestly, that's probably what kept us out of it for so long was that everybody has podcasts. We're like, oh, we don't want to be that.
I can't tell you how many people will just randomly say like, oh, man, does everyone have to have a podcast now? And now I'm like, we do too.
But listen to ours.
Sue, you are, of course, a WNBA legend, having played with the Seattle Storm for 19 seasons. That's an astonishing thing. But the WNBA is having a remarkable season with record viewership and attendance, thanks in large part to rookies like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, who's now out for the season after an injury. I just love your assessment of what they should be doing to build the enthusiasm and momentum. And Megan, I'd love you to jump in because it's sports, how to get people to do more sports. The New York Liberty has seen a 130% year-over-year increase in season ticket membership. They've raised their prices, as have a number of WNBA teams. And I also want to mention Sue joined the ownership group for the Seattle Storm earlier this year. Why don't you start, Sue?
Sure. My answer to this question is that we already did it. We already did it. The product on the floor has never been better. It has continued to be kind of like the rock of the league throughout the course of my career and then now. So that part, check that box. I think the businesses, obviously we get a lot of help from the NBA, but now each individual team's business is being run with the future in mind, right? Not just how we're going to get by this year. So the foundation has been built for many, many years. And now what you're seeing is we finally, through all the work we've done, yes, in the last 28 years, which is the league's existence, but also more so in the last 4 or 5 years. Now we're at this point where the way I like to look at it, we have crossed this imaginary line of celebrity that usually male athletes automatically cross the minute they're drafted, the minute they play. For some reason, the WNBA was held back. We know those reasons. A lot of them end with an ism. And so now that we've crossed that line, you're seeing that people are looking at us differently. They're looking at the league differently. When they get offered WNBA tickets, not just celebrities, general, people in general, but when they get offered, now it's like, oh yeah, let me check that out. Whereas used to be like, is it worth it? So somehow we have crossed that line, and now that we're on the other side, I just imagine business is going to continue to boom. The only thing that we talk about a lot is wanting people, whether it's corporate partnership, networks, you name it, we want them to look at our potential. We've gotten to that point. We've proven it. We're here. We've done the thing. We've done the thing without your support. Now imagine what it would look like if we had your support. So if people can see our potential, that's where the business is going to take off in another direction.
So Megan, if you could comment, because I think probably that's the same thing that's happening with soccer and other things, but talk about that invisible line of celebrity and what it does. What do you think has happened? Is it because say your team did so well, or people were looking at women's sports in general? Though they separate out men's sports pretty easily.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things, but I think just in general, the sort of changing tide in the country even. Even through the pandemic, obviously the WNBA's work and getting Reverend Warnock and Senator Warnock elected, but it's also I honestly feel like the people with the money, and we normally know who those people are, ran out of excuses or things that they could sort of blame on not investing in women's sports. And now
all of them are like flocking, like it's like Bob Iger bought into, the team in LA, Angel City FC. So I feel like it's like we can't say that it's not fun anymore. We can't say that like everyone's gay and we don't like that anymore. Like being overtly racist isn't really that cool anymore. And so I feel like in a lot of ways it just kind of like crossed this threshold. I think social media was a big part of that. Players could get their own stories out, different ways to disseminate media. I think that increased TV viewership, increased, investment from not only existing ownership groups, but new ownership groups coming in. And it's actually like, okay, fine, we'll stop discriminating. Like, we'll just see how the business goes. To your point about the sort of potential, men get invested on potential and what they might do eventually all the time. That's sort of the baseline. For women, it's like you have to do the thing, catch lightning in the bottle.
Scott?
This is more a question maybe for both of you and bring Sue in. I think of different leagues or different sports as asset classes. Some are increasing in value, some are decreasing in value. Outside of the WNBA or football, where you both are going to have a bias, what sports, as you look across the landscape, or what leagues do you think are increasing the most in value and also decreasing the most in value? I've heard the NFL has an aging problem, for example, or its viewers are aging. Any thoughts on which assets are increasing or decreasing?
I think I feel like in male sports, honestly, the screw has been turned and is being turned to milk every little last thing. And they're thinking, okay, can we get augmented reality in? Obviously, the betting has been huge. But yeah, I think all women's sports is on the up because it's been so underinvested in, and there's such an investment gap. There's so much room to grow across media platforms, live platform, like all of it. The NFL just seems to rake in money, but I just have to believe at some point, like, that's just going to run out. At some point, it's like it's not going to be okay that, however many percentage of the players have brain damage. That just feels like unsustainable.
Yeah, oftentimes when I think of this question, not worded the way you worded it, I'll look at the NFL, the NBA, whatever it is, and I'll be like, what's going to take this down? Or what's going to decrease this value? Or what's going to change player salary?
We keep waiting and it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't. I actually don't think it will. I think, just to Megan's point, other assets are going to grow and reach those levels, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. Let me change the topic. We talk a lot on our show about the negative impact of social media on kids and teens, but it's an issue for athletes as well. You recently talked on the podcast about the trolls that athletes face. Megan said the negativity shouldn't be the default, but it is. Do you think you guys are very active on social media? Do you think the pros outweigh the cons when it comes to athletes on social media? And talk a little bit about how you use it yourself.
I feel like I use it as a way to express myself. I'm not really looking to get anything like back from it necessarily, whether it's comments or whatever. But
Megan's unique in that.
Yeah, I am very unique in that. And I was also like, I came to it a little bit older. I feel like my brain wasn't like formed around it like kids are now. I really like feel for them. It's so like woven into the fabric of their upbringing and their like social understanding of how to be, and it's really difficult. I always just suggest athletes like don't get in your comments, like be in the real world. Like you have people around you, friends, family, advisors, all the things, like stay in that world. But also I understand that sometimes that's like impossible to do, but it's kind of a hellscape in there.
Yeah, it's a fake place with real consequence. And so I think you always have to have some sort of balance in that. And whenever you feel as an individual, the way Megan was wording it, whenever you feel like that balance is out of whack, you got to find a way to recenter it. Because I do think, again, coming from the lens of a woman's athlete in this country, especially a basketball player, especially with the WNBA, it has 100% helped us grow. Mm-hmm. It has helped individuals have brands. It has helped us get messages out. It has helped us bring awareness to certain things. Without it, I don't know if the league is where it is right now. So it's hard for me to say that it's a bad thing, but then also it's a cesspool. So you have to find that balance. And that is the tricky part. I feel like that's where I'm hopeful that every, 8-year-old right now is taking, they have like it's like social studies, English, social media.
But it's also like, I find it really frustrating. Like and you guys talk about this all the time, this is well known. Like the media companies and the internet companies have done almost nothing to stop what they know is happening. And now it's like, cat's kind of out of the bag. Like, how do you roll back, whether it's bots or trolls or just like the sort of devolving of conversation or decorum or norm or like kindness that is now just the norm on the internet. Like the norm is just to like whatever kind of quip you can get back, whatever kind of like little negative thing that someone can type, whether it's a fan or someone on social media or whatever it is, like that seems the default. But it's like, where's their responsibility?
So I was fascinated, or I should say, I don't understand and think it's a bad idea when couples go into business together. I feel as if it's putting all your eggs in one basket.
Thanks.
Yeah.
The eggs were already there.
But I guess the question is, a lot of people do it, and it works out really well for a lot of people. Do you have any best practices or rules to try and maintain the health of the business and your personal relationship, given that you're obviously just so involved with each other, during work hours and non-work hours?
Well, we're figuring it out. We're figuring it out on the fly. We talk about a lot of our business stuff with our couples therapists, and I'm sure in our individual therapy as well. I know I do.
It comes up.
We have really great people that work with us, and we're trying it. Like, it could go up in flames, and if it does, we're going to pull this clip and be like, Scott was right, and it could all just like come shattering down. But I feel like, I don't know, we're also enjoying it, and it's fun, and we get to talk about something that we really love in women's sports, which is something obviously we both played, and it's such a big part of our relationship, and we're just out here giving it a wing.
Yeah, I think the time management of it all is maybe the most difficult. Like, when are we working? When are we not? Because a lot of our lives is what you're seeing on this podcast. Like, this is what we talk about in our day-to-day lives. So at times it's like, okay, when do we shut this off? When are we just chilling? When are we? Because that's the only time for me personally. I'm just telling you this for the first time. That's the only time me personally where it gets blurry or kind of like, oh, I don't want to talk about this right now. We just talked about it for the last 12 hours.
Yeah.
But then simultaneously, this is what you see right now is like, this is it. This is our lives. We just happen to have a camera and a microphone in front of our faces. But then at the same time, as athletes, our whole lives have been that. So this isn't like a new dynamic.
Anyway, thank you so much, Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird. If you want to hear more expert analysis of the business of sports from Megan and Sue, check out A Touch More.